Hello and welcome to Pathways, where you are invited to join me for a visit with leaders in personal development and cultural evolution. This is your host, Paul O'Brien. The process for uncovering a personal vision of a bigger life and taking a bold leap towards living it can be daunting, especially during a pandemic. Today's guest draws on her personal journey and her professional experience, coaching and empowering others to guide anyone seeking to discover and design a full and deeply rewarding life of their own, no matter what the circumstances. Our guest today is Nancy Pickard, author of the new book, Bigger, Better, Braver, Conquer Your Fears, Embrace Your Courage, and Transform Your Life. Nancy is a certified integrative coach through the Ford Institute for Transformational Training, holding 5 certifications. Before becoming a life coach, she founded, owned, and operated a personal training gym. A dynamic speaker and outstanding testament to what she preaches and practices, Nancy has appeared as a guest on numerous podcasts. She is the mother of 2 sons, the grandmother of 3 children, and the happy owner of an irrepressible Australian Labradoodle named Bliss. No, wait, last minute update. She's the grandmother of 4 children.
Yes.
She splits her time between Aspen, Colorado, and Larkspur, California. Hello, Nancy, and welcome to the Pathways Show.
Hi, thank you for having me.
All right, tell me the story of how you came up with the title to this book, Bigger, Better, Braver.
It's a great title. I couldn't come up with one, and I was working on writing my book, and I'm working with a couple of people, and I've got an agent, and my boyfriend is an editor and a book writer also. And every time I came up with the title, they'd say, "Nah, I'm not so sure. Just put it on the list and stop thinking about it." Was basically what they told me. And then all of a sudden, in the middle of the night, I woke up. I sat up at like 2:00 in the morning, and I said, "Bigger, better, braver," and that was it. Everyone loved it. It was like a download from the universe. I knew it was right, and it was like everyone loved it. It was perfect.
And that represented what inspired you to take all these new life-changing risks? The idea that to be bigger and braver?
To be bigger and better, you have to be braver. So it's really about being brave. It's about getting outside your comfort zone and being willing to have like a courage mindset, pushing through the confines of your comfort zone.
And what is this? Is that what a courage mindset means? Just pushing through the confines of your comfort zone? Is there more to it than that?
Well, it's a way of life. It's much more than a mantra. It's a way of life. So it's like, if I can't, I must. If something is, if I'm afraid to try something, then I really need to do it. I need to push myself. There are lessons everywhere. And I need to be willing, if I want to have that bigger, better, braver life, I actually have to be willing to go for it. And doesn't have to be huge steps, but you have to go for it. And if you fail forward. You pick yourself up, you see what was good about that, what was wrong about that, how can you readjust it, and you keep going.
Now, for most of your adult life, your days revolved around taking care of your kids and your husband. But after 26 years of marriage, your husband asked for a divorce. How did that change things for you in the way that you saw yourself?
Well, at the time, it really broke me. It brought me down to my knees. And because I had been married for 26 years, I really saw myself through my husband's eyes. So if he no longer wanted me, I no longer wanted me. And when other men wanted me, I would think, well, what do they know? Really my identity was tied up in my ex-husband. And so I had to rebuild my own self-love and self-trust for myself. And it takes a lot of rebuilding. You get knocked down and you have to do the work to get up there. And I did.
Do you think that this brought forth some shadow belief that you had about yourself that made it such that you derived your sense of worth from how other people saw you or how your husband saw you?
Well, yes. I think that we are very often other referred. which means that we see ourselves through the eyes of other people. We need other people to tell us how great we are, or how thin we are, or how smart we are. And you need to become self referred. You need to recognize that you love yourself, you trust yourself. It comes from deep within you, and it's not other referred. I was very other referred, and I had to rebuild because I really always had a really strong sense of self and worthiness, and I knew I was capable and smart and athletic and all funny. I was all these good things, but it was tied into my ex-husband and how he saw me too. And I had to start all over and like relearn who I really was.
Right. And is that true of everybody? It seems like we grow up and we learn to please or try to please our parents, to be a good girl or a good boy, so that we can get our needs met, so that we can get love. We kind of are trained, many of us, to earn love. Unless we had really good parenting where there was a lot of unconditional love available pretty much whenever we needed it, we learned to earn love and develop these beliefs.
Right. We all do. I need to take care of everybody so I will be loved or I will be safe. You
Right.
know, that's how people pleasers even start out. And at the end of the day, being a people pleaser is not gonna you can't, it doesn't hold up to time. It really doesn't. You'll either get ill, it exhausts you, you put yourself last. It's not, there's no self-awareness and no self-love in being a total people pleaser. But yes, these are beliefs that come out of our childhood, and they're there to make us safe. You know, we want to be loved by our parents, so we try to please them. We try to do the things that they do so we look like them, so that they'll love us more. They'll see themselves in us and they'll love us more, whether they're good people or not. So eventually, at some point, you have to really uncover those beliefs so you can become who you need to become.
Yeah, and those beliefs, as you point out in the book, lead to commitments that we make to ourselves that are based on shadow beliefs, like you call them unconscious commitments. Like, I can think in my own life, I was brought up to think, or I came to the conclusion at age 5 or 6 that I needed to be perfect in order to receive love, and that I had to just try harder, and I could never give up. And I went through my life with that sort of mentality where I would never give up, and I would just keep trying harder at the same ridiculous mission, which is to try to squeeze a few crumbs of love out of somebody who didn't have love to give because she was a narcissist or whatever.
Right.
Oh my God. I was committed to not letting myself be controlled by that. So anyway, it's just fascinating to think. And that commitment actually did me a lot of good as an entrepreneur. I became
Right.
successful as an entrepreneur because I never gave up.
Correct.
I just kept
It
at it.
built resiliency for you.
Right.
There's a gift in all of these beliefs. They're formed to keep you safe, but eventually, as an adult, they stop keeping you safe. So yes, trying to be perfect made you excel, but deep down, the wounded little boy inside doesn't think he's perfect. So there's this dissonance between what you believe about yourself and what you show to the world.
Right. That's right. And that's got to cost you in terms of, I don't know what, mental health or physical health, stress.
Right.
Yeah.
It does cost you. And also, trying to be a perfectionist actually goes along with having a fixed mindset instead of the growth mindset. You only want to do the things that you think you're going to do well because you need to be perfect. It also causes procrastination and freezes some people because if they don't think they're going to be able to do well, they can't do anything.
Mm-hmm.
And so you do really well on the things that you're performing well on, but then there's those other things that you don't even want to try.
Now, speaking of big things that you might want to try,
Yeah.
one of the main stories in your book is how you climbed Mount Kilimanjaro at the age of 61. Tell us about that. Why did you do
Well,
that?
I actually planned it when I was turning 60 because I just thought it was this big, huge, looming, ugly number. And I wasn't willing to go down. I was going to go down screaming and shaking the whole way down, basically. And so I wanted to try to think of something for my birthday that was going to push the envelope. It was going to be something I really always, I had wanted to do for years, but I didn't want to do it alone. And like climbing Kilimanjaro is not an easy thing to get somebody else to do with you. It's not like, oh, let's go out for dinner, It's like, let's fly to Africa and climb 19,341 feet. So I had to and going alone was something I was also afraid of. So putting that together with doing this big climb and, climbing for 8 nights and being with people I didn't know and all of those things, that challenged me. That was me being bigger, better, braver. And I worked on it for 6 months and I overtrained. I ripped the whole thing. I was so good and so strong. And I lived in Colorado, so nobody, I had to get my own guides at the top because nobody could even keep my pace, and they were 30 years younger than me. But the point is, it proved to me, like beyond a shadow of a doubt, that I could do anything. I was all I needed. I could stand on my own 2 feet. I could take care of myself, and I had it going on. So even though I was 61 by the time I went, I rocked it, and it was inspiring and inspirational for me.
Do you recommend that people do things that inspire fear or uncertainty or self-doubt in order to learn what they're capable of? You mean things like fire walks? I did a couple
I
of
did that too.
I did a couple of those, and I was scared shitless. But then, I don't know. I never got burned or anything. It was
No, me
pretty.
either.
It was pretty amazing.
Yeah, I did that too. I feel like if you want to squeeze all the juice out of your life that you can, you have to get comfortable with being uncomfortable. There
Oh
is
my
no
God.
growth. There
Uh-huh.
is no growth from your comfort zone. And nobody on their deathbed is saying, I wish I had spent more time just giving into my fears and sitting on the couch and not doing stuff. That's just that's not it. So people as they get older, a lot of people, I mean, I've got people that are my age that are like thinking, well, I'm in my 60s now. I'm slowing down. I'm giving that up. I can't do that anymore. Well, that's not true. Like my father was skiing at 93 years old down the Black Diamond Mountains. Like age is never something that should stop you.
Wow.
That's
Well,
just plain small.
okay. The whole idea of becoming comfortable with the discomfort of fear, that's kind of a foreign concept for most people.
Yeah,
You know,
people think that they need to be in a fearless state to do anything. Like, once I'm not afraid, I'll do that. Once I'm not afraid, I'll do this. No, you actually have to recognize that everything happens for a reason, that there's this energy, there's this universe out there that actually has your back. And that even if you fail, it's just a stepping stone to the next step. Revamp, figure it out, see what you did wrong, get up and try it again. So welcome failures because there's lessons in those failures. Don't take a failure and stop. You have to keep going.
right. Can you talk about excuses and how to move
Yeah.
beyond them? How we can move beyond them during this pandemic?
Yes. So, well, that's two separate things. So we all live in our excuses because there's some truth in them. I don't think I have enough money, or I'm too busy, or my kids need me. All of these things, there is some truth in that, or I'm not smart enough. But if you don't give in to your excuses, you'll find a way to do it. So you might want to take a trip and you don't think, I can't afford that trip. Well, that might be true today, but let's see where you're spending your money, how you can put a little bit away each week, because then eventually you're going to be, let's say you're 30 when you have that conversation. Well, when you're 35, you're either going to have enough money to take that trip, or you're going to be 35 and you didn't save your money and you can't take the trip. So it's just a way of rethinking the way you're doing it. But you need to not give in to your excuses for why your life doesn't look the way it should, because that keeps you stuck and it keeps you the victim instead of the co-creator of your life.
So what do you suggest? How do we free ourselves from old ways of behaving, habits and such?
The first thing you have to do is get out of autopilot. So autopilot is like, you know how you drive and you all of a sudden you get somewhere and you can't even remember how you got there. Well, autopilot is just the way we do things. Oh, it's the habitual way we do things without thinking, where we're eating a meal, watching TV, and we don't remember we ate it, or we're binge watching, for 3 hours and we didn't get to do the work that we were supposed to do. So to get out of autopilot, you actually have to like stop yourself and look and see, well, where in your life are you doing things mindlessly? And then come up with ways, with eating, you can use chopsticks, you can use your left hand if you're a righty. There are different things you can do. There are different things you can do for each of your habitual habits, the ones that are actually causing you from moving forward in your life. Some of them are fine to do, but the ones that are actually keeping you, sabotaging you over and over again, those are the ones you have to get mindful about, so that you can take steps in a mindful way to change them.
Do you have some kind of system that you have used to make agreements with yourself? Because I like what you write. Trusting my word was one of the most important things I could do to love myself.
Yeah. So, as a life coach, having my clients trust their word is the number one thing I do for them. I hold them accountable while they're learning to hold themselves accountable. But every week, whatever they tell me they're going to do as an action step, they have to follow through. Otherwise, like, why pay me? You're not doing the work. So for me, if I tell myself I'm going to do something, I do it, especially when I make sure that my goals are in alignment with like my values and my vision and where I want to go. Then all you have to do to get there is to make sure that every step you take, you follow through, because we always tell ourselves things and don't do it. That's normal. How many times have you thought you were going to lose 5 pounds, or you're going to meditate every day, or you were going to stop drinking for a month? I mean, we tell ourselves these things, and then when it gets hard, we stop and we don't even remember that we told ourselves we were going to do that. It's like just goes away. So when you learn to stay in alignment with where you want to go and accountable to yourself, you actually can trust yourself. Because if you don't trust yourself, if your word doesn't mean anything to you, how are other people going to trust you?
Right. I had an issue with that in my life where I would make New Year's resolutions, and then maybe a month or 6 weeks later, I go, oh, I'd make some excuse. I'd say, I can't do that. That's just too big. What was I thinking? It's just too big. And so then I thought, well, maybe if I made a shorter scale agreement with myself and put it down in writing. So
Right.
I have a system where I make 30-day agreements with myself, and I put it in writing because I think that I can do anything for 30 days.
Yeah. And when you put it down in writing, it's like a map, right?
Uh-huh.
It's a plan, it's a map, it's out there.
And then I can renew it. And, if
Mhm.
it takes longer than that to drop some habit or to start some new one, etc.
That's
So
great.
I really resonated with what you said there. Now, talk about about vision. We say there. You say there's the soul's vision and there's the ego's vision. Tell us about that.
So the ego's vision is basically the vision that you get out of your childhood. What does your mom and dad want for you? What does your community want for you? What do your teachers want for you? You kind of grow up thinking, oh, I'm going to be this, I'm going to be this. And, you get kudos from other people, and that's what you think you're going to do. How many people become lawyers and then they hate it. They're so dispassionate about it. They don't know why they wanted it in the first place, and they change what they were doing. That's your ego's vision. But when you get quiet enough, you get out of autopilot, like I was talking about earlier, and you listen to what your soul wants for you. Like, what would make my soul dance? You know, if I could do anything, what would I want to be? What's the big picture gravitational pull that will take me to where I want to go, not from what I think other people want from me? That's your soul's vision.
I like what you write, and I think it's kind of radical. Your vision doesn't necessarily have to feel real or attainable.
Yeah, let's say I said to you that my vision that I came up with was that I wanted to be a movie star. Okay. Now, I don't know anybody in the business or who knows what I know, but that's my vision. I will start doing tiny steps to get me there. And somewhere along the line, I might actually change my mind. I might be 7 steps in and an opportunity will come up. Oh, wait, I don't want to be a movie star, but I do want to be in plays. Like, you might change, but you wouldn't have even gotten to that fork if you hadn't stepped in towards that vision. So your vision is a big picture. It doesn't have to be set in time. It's what I had said before. It's like a gravitational pull. I think of it like it's the bullseye in a target. And as long as you pull back the bow and arrow, and every step you take is in alignment on the trajectory of that arrow to get into the target, you're going to get there. And if you don't get there, you're going to get someplace that you want to be.
And you write about the importance of meaning and how we, it isn't what we go through that defines us, you write. What defines us is what we make it mean, coupled with the actions we take. Can we make old stories mean something different now?
Totally. That's really part of the work, is to see that all of the drama is in our interpretation of the story. There's no one interpretation is no more true than another. So when you actually look at the facts and separate the facts from the fiction, the drama goes out with the fiction. And you can give yourself a new empowering belief instead of that old disempowering belief that doesn't support you.
Right. You write, ironically, the more we work on transforming ourselves, the more likely we are to resist the changes we want to make. Why is that?
Well, because our brain really likes things to stay the same. It does not like cognitive self-dissonance. It wants your beliefs, which are sometimes disempowering, to go with your actions. So you might get a new job or a promotion, but deep down inside, your belief is that you're not good enough or you're not worthy. And so your action of the promotion and your belief that you're not worthy, they don't sync up. And so what happens is you start to unconsciously sabotage that job, because your brain is going to be happier when you lose the job and your beliefs and the no longer having the job match.
Can you offer our listeners any advice about how to navigate fear and anxiety in the midst of this pandemic?
Yes, I can. So you don't want to make any of your feelings wrong, because it is an emotional roller coaster. You're going to have highs and lows. Life looks very different than it did. But if you can actually look for what's right in the situation and not just concentrate on what's wrong, looking for what's wrong changes your outlook. It makes you more creative. It takes your energy away from being the victim into being the co-creator and seeing ways that you can do things differently. And I'm not suggesting that we're all in the same boat here, because we're not. We're all in our own boat. We're just all on the same river. We're all have the pandemic in our life right now, but there's no way that it's affecting each and every one of us the same way. But how resilient you are and how you can pivot and do things differently, that is up to you. You can lay down and die, or you can say, oh my God, like, I didn't know I could work from home. I didn't know I could do this. Like, this is great. I didn't realize my grown kids were going to come back and live with me, but this is like a gift. So it's not always good, but this is like a year out of our life that we're all together again. And, there are positive things that have come from all of this.
Now, if you could choose one takeaway from your book for our readers, what would it be?
It would be to get out of your comfort zone, and that to get comfortable with being uncomfortable, and that life is waiting for you. Everybody, no matter what you're doing in your life, can be bigger, can live better, can be braver. And don't settle. Just don't settle. Life is waiting for you.
Thank you, Nancy. It's been a delight to talk with you today, but we've run out of time. And I want to make sure to tell our listeners about your website, which is www.nancypickardlifecoach.com. That's all one big long word, Nancy Pickard Life Coach. Pickard is spelled Pickard. For those who tuned in to the Pathways show late, this is your host, Paul O'Brien, author of Intuitive Intelligence, a book that shares the theme of pathways, which is personal and cultural evolution. In a second, I'll tell you how you can rewind and replay this interview whenever you want via the internet or as a free podcast. Today, we have been visiting with Nancy Pickard, author of Bigger, Better, Braver, Conquer Your Fears, Embrace Your Courage, and Transform Your Life. I want to say thank you to all of our listeners for tuning in to Pathways, which is broadcast and streamed on the internet at www.kboo.fm every other Sunday morning at 8:30 USA Pacific Time. Podcasts of today's show, which you can listen to and forward to others, are available for free at divination.com, spelled D-I-V-I nation.com, as well as via iTunes and other free podcast servers. This is Paul O'Brien reminding you to tell your friends about Pathways Radio and podcasts. And thanks again to Nancy Pickard and to all of you listeners for tuning in and being a part of the Pathways conversation.